Hi, Richard Knudson here, and welcome to the August meeting of the Dynamics CRM User Group. Now, this is the second of two sessions we've held on mobility solutions for Dynamics CRM, and we're fortunate to have two excellent presentations lined up for you today. After a brief introduction by me, we'll hear from Bob Piskule of Microsoft, who will present on the Microsoft Mobile Express product. And after Bob, Ben Mitchell of TenDigits will present on TenDigits' flagship product, Mobile Access. Before handing the presentation reins over, I want to provide some context and background for our discussion of mobile CRM. And I'll start with a basic question. Why do we care about mobile CRM? Why is it important? Well, I'll argue that if done right, mobile CRM can accomplish what really should be an underlying goal of any CRM rollout. And that is to make CRM less standalone and more extension of things we're already doing, ways we already work. Here's an example of this in another context. Where do you send emails from? Well, for a lot of people, that's Outlook. And if you've got the dynamic CRM client for Outlook, it's a lot easier and more natural to simply send an email from Outlook and attach it to a CRM contact or account record than it is to navigate to the CRM web client and start trying to use it as your email client. So the idea here would be to make the CRM experience a simple extension to the familiar email one. Returning to the mobile world, think about phone calls as another example. Now, we tend to make them from our phones, and increasingly, that means mobile devices. The goal here should be to make the CRM experience more phone-centric, less standalone. And as more and more customer touches migrate to these mobile devices, that's going to clearly increase the importance of the overall mobile CRM experience. Now, to drive these points home, let's compare two simple scenarios and see which is easier, which is more productive. I'll characterize scenario one as the traditional dynamic CRM experience. Say, using the web client, and we're receiving and tracking a phone call from a client, who happens to be a CRM contact. Well, after receiving the call, I might do something like look up the contact record, Dynamic CRM, create a phone call activity record, enter text to summarize the conversation, then close the phone call as completed. Now compare that to what you might think of as the mobile CRM scenario. Well, we receive the phone call from the client, things get initiated similarly, but then they change. Mobile CRM would find the client contact record for you, maybe turn on recording automatically, or maybe click a button to turn on recording. You complete the call automatically and attach it as history item to the contact record, maybe attaching the WAV file of the recording at the same time. So as I said, these are simple scenarios, but I do think they support an important point. That is that the easier you make CRM, and the more you make it a simple extension of existing activities as opposed to a separate activity in itself, the more success you're likely to have with your overall CRM initiative. Now, here's a version of a slide I presented last month. I think of it as a mini framework for comparing CRM mobility solutions. First, which platforms are supported? Virtually every vendor has varying degrees of support for Windows Mobile, BlackBerry, iPhone, and the other mobile platforms. And the availability of a CRM solution on the platform you need to support is probably a pretty good place to start when it comes to your requirements. Next, what's the platform architecture? Is it all server-based with minimal client requirements, such as a web browser? Or do you install a so-called rich client on the mobile device? It's generally more work and often more expensive to install a client application, but then the user experience can be better as well. All these trade-offs, right? Then the question of where does the code run? Do you install it on premise? Have to maintain it yourself? Or does it run out there in the cloud? Licensing and pricing can be an important consideration, of course, especially if you've got a population of 10,000 sales professionals who all need mobile access. Finally, probably most important, think about your business requirements. The little scenarios I walked through in the previous slide are pretty simple examples, but there are probably different versions of them that would need to be supported for a mobile CRM solution to work for you. Okay, with very little further ado, I'll introduce our presenters for the August meeting of the Dynamic CRM User Group. Start with Bob Piskule. He works for Microsoft, and he's going to present on Microsoft's Mobile Express product, which is a free add-on for the Dynamic CRM 4.0 on-premise version. Now, the quote I lifted from its landing page, that it works on any device with a web browser, tells you a lot about its architecture. Almost everything happens on the server, and the only client requirement is lightweight browser. Now, after Bob, we'll be treated to Ben Mitchell of TenDigits software, and he will present on their product, Mobile Access. Now, you can see from the quote I lifted from their website that it has a fundamentally different architecture than the Microsoft product. Mobile Access is a rich client application. It's got more functionality than the Microsoft product, and with that functionality comes a bigger footprint, plus it costs something as well. Let Ben tell us about that. Now, remember last month we saw a similar distinction between the browser-based SoftBridge product and CWR Mobility's rich client experience. I learned a lot by contrasting those two applications, and I suspect we'll learn as much from Ben and Bob. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bob Piskule of Microsoft.